Be who you are and say how you feel. Because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. That's, of course, a quote from the great Dr. Seuss. So now the question is, who are you? Hey, my name is Mr. K. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for clicking this video. And this is not just my channel, but it is your channel. It is our channel. And the reason I say our channel is because I want us to go on a journey of self-discovery together. So go ahead and like, subscribe, and of course, ding that notifications bell. Right, now back to this question. Who are you? Now, let's be honest. Most of us cannot answer this question without referring to our childhood, right? How we grew up, where we grew up, and who we grew up around us. All of these things influence how we see ourselves. Think about when you were a young child, right? You had to be told your name, your age, where you stay, and these are the things that were the fundamentals, the building blocks of your identity. And growing up, you discovered perhaps some other things about yourself. You discovered some things about your family. Perhaps you come from a line of royalty. Perhaps you come from a family that's famous around your area for a particular thing, and that's what you clung to when it came to your identity. There are many different things, many different facets of who we are that form an image of how we see ourselves, correct? For other people, it may be the ability to do certain things, like perform well on the sports field. Others are good actors. Maybe others are good musicians. And that's what they cling to when it comes to finding their identity. Now, I'm not saying any of these things are wrong. And I'm not saying that they're all the way right either. But what I am saying, though, is there's more. There has got to be more. Now, from a cultural standpoint, you'd find that other people would go as far as finding out about their family line, about their ancestral line. And if you are fortunate enough to have that information ready at hand, then that's brilliant, because that's another thing that you could use to identify yourself with, right? But like I said, there is more. So then let's delve a little deeper into the more. Because the more we do that, the more that life can make sense and should make sense for us. So with that in mind, I want to give you a quote by a great man by the name of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. And this is what Dr. Ambedkar said. Unlike a drop of water which loses its identity when it joins the ocean, man does not lose his being in the society in which he lives. Man's life is independent. He is born not only for the development of himself, but he is also born for the development of the society in which he finds himself in. Now, why is this important? This is important because your identity should stretch beyond the realm of what is around you. In other words, your immediate surroundings, your family, your friends. All right, why is this important? Well, because you were created for more than just that. You were created to actually have an impact beyond your close ones and your relatives as well as your friends. You were created to have a lasting impact in this very world. But if you don't discover your identity, if you don't know who you are, then you might just miss that destiny. So this is why I want us to have this chat. This is why I want us to have this conversation. Because until we are able to comfortably and confidently identify ourselves beyond our family line, beyond our abilities, beyond what other people have said about us, we will not be able to unlock our full potential. Now, as I said before, it's very easy to find identity in the things that we do as well. You know, you grow up, you become a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, and all of a sudden that gives you meaning, right? But when you go home, are you still a doctor? Are you still an accountant? Are you still a lawyer? If the answer is yes, then you're probably not the most pleasant person to be around at home. Because let's be honest, nobody needs a doctor, lawyer, or an accountant at home. Home is the place where you can just be yourself, free of titles and expectations. So as we journey in finding this identity that can only be found through, and this is the point here, our Creator. Right. So I spoke about ancestry. I spoke about family lines. I spoke about family history. But this thing goes deeper than that. Because when we go back into history, history does give us a good perspective from which to view our lives going forward, right? It gives us a decent frame for our lives. But I submit to you that we need to go beyond our family line, that we need to go right back to the beginning where everything started. Not just your life, not just the life of the lives of your ancestors, but the beginning of life itself. Now, of course, if you are a person who buys into, or rather, if you are a person who believes in the Judeo-Christian narrative of how the world came into being, then of course you'll understand that it was God himself, the one and only supreme being, who created this very universe in which we live. Now, after creating the universe, the Bible tells us in Genesis chapter 1 that he then said, "Let us create man in our own image and in our own likeness." And this you find in verse 26 of that first chapter of the book of Genesis. And I believe that that is the best place to start when you're trying to figure your identity out. Why? Because out of that one man that God created, whose name was Adam, came every other man. Eve came out of Adam, and of course, together they began to procreate and to fill the earth and to multiply as they were commanded by God in that very same book. And that's exactly what they did. And so the human species began to multiply. And so the story goes of how we got to where we are. It was from that first man. So now here's the clue. What did God say to that first man? Because what he said to that first man still applies to this man, still applies to that man, still applies to you and I. So therefore, let's go on this journey and discover exactly who we are and whose we are. Because until we know who we belong to, we will never know where we should go. So I want to close with this. And this is a quote from a man who shall remain unknown for now. But he's a guy from the south of the US. And this is what he said. Be what you is, not what you ain't. Because if you ain't what you is what you ain't. Don't stress, because you're blessed and you are loved by the one above. See you on the next one.